All right, let's just jump right in. When you think about the scientific revolution, there's one name that just looms over everything: René Descartes. The father of modern philosophy, the guy who gave us "I think, therefore I am." The story we're usually told about him is so clean, so logical, so rational, just like the system he created. But the real story, the one he actually kept secret, well, it's anything but. You're looking at a sentence that supposedly sparked the entire modern world. The story, told famously by Terence McKenna, is that this was a direct download, a message delivered by an angel to a young Descartes that gave him his life's mission. It's an incredible story. It's also completely made up. So, what happens when we start to pull on that thread? What if the origin story of reason itself isn't based on some neat, tidy pronouncement from an angel, but on something way stranger, more chaotic, and, well, deeply mystical? That's exactly what we're going to dig into. Okay, let's put these side by side. McKenna's version is so dramatic, right? An angel shows up, delivers this epic one-liner on a specific date. But when you look at the actual historical record from Descartes' own notebooks, it all falls apart. The date is off by nearly a whole year. No angel ever shows up to say anything. And that legendary quote, it's literally nowhere to be found in his writings. But here's the thing. The truth isn't boring. It's actually way more interesting. We have to go back to that real date, November 10th, 1619. Descartes isn't some celebrated philosopher yet. Nope, he's a 23-year-old soldier, cooped up in a tiny room in Germany in the dead of winter, having what he called a kind of feverish breakdown. And that night, he had 3 of the weirdest dreams you can imagine. Dreams that would change the world forever. So the first dream was a straight-up nightmare. He imagines he's walking down a street, but it's haunted by these phantoms. Suddenly, a crazy whirlwind grabs him and starts spinning him around on one foot. He's desperately trying to reach a chapel, but the wind just keeps pushing him away. And then, someone offers him a melon from a foreign country. It's so intense he wakes up in actual physical pain, terrified that an evil demon sent the dream. The second dream is short and violent. Bam! He's woken up by this massive thunderclap, and his whole room is filled with sparks of fire flying all over the place. Now, what's fascinating is his biographer says this had actually happened to him before. But this time, Descartes was absolutely convinced. This was it. This was the spirit of truth descending upon him. And then the final dream, the whole mood just shifts. It's quiet, it's thoughtful. A dictionary and a book of poetry just appear on his table. He opens the poetry book, and his eyes land on a line from an old Roman poet. "What path in life shall I follow?" Then a stranger appears, points to another poem, and this one starts with est et non, which means yes and no. Now this is the absolute key. Descartes starts interpreting all these symbols while he's still in the dream. He decides that the dictionary means all the sciences can be unified into one single system. The poetry, that's about joining philosophy with real wisdom. What path shall I follow? Well, that was clearly his divine mission. And yes and no, that became the very heart of his entire philosophy, systematic doubt, the method for separating truth from lies. He woke up, prayed, and promised to go on a holy pilgrimage. But see, a visionary night like this doesn't just happen in a vacuum. To really get what's going on in these dreams, you have to understand the world Descartes was swimming in. This was an age of hermeticism, of secret societies, of mysticism. And yeah, young Descartes was right in the thick of it. When Descartes tried to describe his state of mind that night, he used a very specific word: enthusiasm. Now to us, that just means you're really excited about something. But in the 17th century, it meant something so much bigger. It comes from the Greek entheos, literally to have the God within. It was about having direct spiritual knowledge, what the mystics called gnosis. And the evidence linking him to this world gets pretty specific. Remember, his dreams happened in Ulm, Germany. Well, Ulm just happened to be a major center for printing texts by the Rosicrucians, this mysterious secret society that claimed it had the keys to reform all human knowledge. That same year, Descartes dedicated a mathematical paper to them. His mentor in town was a known Rosicrucian sympathizer. The connection was so strong that later, in Paris, he had to go out in public and deny he was one of them, which, only made people more suspicious. So, this brings us to the giant paradox at the heart of this whole story. You have a system of pure, cold, hard logic that was born from a fever dream, occult dabbling, and a mystical vision. So what happens when that logical system turns its gaze back around and tries to analyze its own chaotic birth? Well, the answers are pretty predictable, right? Modern science looks at the thunderclap and says, oh, that's exploding head syndrome, a weird but harmless sleep disorder. The visions? Just hallucinations from a bad fever. The deep, profound meaning he found? Clearly just a psychological crisis about his career path being worked out while he slept. In every single case, the scientific method he helped create systematically drains all the mystical meaning right out of the experience.
There's actually a brilliant term for this, epistemic patricide. It's when a system of knowledge, the child, let's say, grows up and basically kills its own parent, the very experience that gave birth to it. The scientific method, which was born from Descartes' absolute divinely inspired certainty, is now used to dismiss that very same certainty as nothing more than a brain glitch.
You can see this insane, self-devouring loop right here. Step 1, a mystical vision gives Descartes the confidence to doubt everything. Step 2, that method of doubting becomes the scientific method. And step 3, the scientific method looks back at the original vision and says, nope, just a simple brain malfunction. The creation literally erases its creator. And what's really wild is that this whole cover-up started with Descartes himself. If you read his most famous work, The Discourse on Method, there is no mention of phantoms or whirlwinds or the spirit of truth. He just says he had some important thoughts while sitting alone in a stove-heated room. He completely sanitized his own origin story, cutting the messy, mystical source away from the clean, rational product. This quote really just nails it. The modern world, our entire age of reason, it didn't kick off with some logical argument presented in public. It started with a private, totally subjective, and profoundly irrational experience that one guy decided was a message from God. And look, this isn't just some one-off weird thing about Descartes. It's a pattern. Think about Isaac Newton, the absolute giant of physics. We remember him for gravity, right? The laws of motion. But when historians actually went through all of his writings, they found that a mind-boggling 84% of what he wrote wasn't about physics at all. It was about alchemy and biblical prophecy. The mystical engine driving the science gets edited out of the official story time and time again. And this all leads to a massive critical question for us right now. If the very foundation of human reason was an act of what you could call visionary madness, what in the world does that mean for the future we're trying to build? We are in a race to create artificial intelligence, machines that are designed from the ground up to be purely logical, without any of the messy, irrational human stuff. But can a true world-changing breakthrough ever come from pure logic alone? Or is there something absolutely essential about that chaotic, mystical spark, that demon in the system, that a machine can just never, ever have?